The December wind cut through Marcus Bennett's wool coat like it wasn't even there, sharp and unforgiving as he stood outside Romano's Italian restaurant, watching Tupples stream past him in the golden lamplight. His breath formed small clouds in the freezing air, disappearing as quickly as his courage. 23 months. That's how long Sarah had been gone. 23 months since cancer had stolen his wife, his best friend, the mother of his 3 boys. 23 months of existing rather than living, of going through motions while his heart remained suspended in that hospital room where he'd held her hand until it went cold. His sister Maya had set up this date, practically begged him, actually, insisting that Sarah would want him to try, to live again, to let someone in. "You're only 38, Marcus," she'd said, gripping his shoulders with tears in her eyes. "You're allowed to be happy again." But standing here now, his hand trembling on the restaurant door handle, Marcus felt like a traitor. The guilt sat in his stomach like stones, heavy and cold. He thought of the profile Maya had created for him, the messages exchanged with Jennifer, a kind-seeming woman who'd lost her husband 5 years ago and understood grief's particular language. She'd suggested Christmas Eve dinner, said something about reclaiming joy during the hardest season. Marcus had agreed, in a moment of weakness, of desperate loneliness that sometimes hit him at 3 in the morning when the house was too quiet and the bed too empty. Now, as Christmas lights twinkled mockingly cheerful around him and Silent Night drifted from somewhere down the street, he wondered what the hell he was doing. Inside, he could see her already seated, Jennifer, with kind eyes and a nervous smile, wearing a green dress that probably took her an hour to choose. She looked nice, normal, alive, and that's what made Marcus's chest constrict with panic so severe he had to grip the doorframe. How could he sit across from another woman? How could he make small talk and pretend his heart wasn't buried 6 feet under next to Sarah's body? How could he laugh at jokes when his sons were at home with Maya, probably asking when Daddy would be back, probably not understanding why their father was out with someone who wasn't their mommy on Christmas Eve of all nights? Marcus pushed through the door, the warmth of the restaurant washing over him along with the smell of garlic and wine and other people's happiness. He wove through tables decorated with small poinsettias and flickering candles, past families laughing and couples holding hands, past everything he'd lost and could never get back. Jennifer saw him and raised her hand in a small wave, and he tried to smile but felt his face crack with the effort. He made it to the table, pulled out the chair, sat down like a man facing execution rather than dinner. "Marcus?" she said softly, and her voice was gentle, understanding even before he spoke. "Hi," he managed, and even that single word came out strangled. They ordered wine because that's what you do on dates, right? Marcus couldn't remember anymore. The last woman he'd taken to dinner had been Sarah, 13 years ago, when they were young and stupid and so in love it hurt. He'd proposed to her at an Italian restaurant not unlike this one, had gotten down on one knee between the main course and dessert while the entire place applauded. She'd said yes through tears of joy, and 3 years later they'd had the triplets, Ethan, Lucas, and Noah, 3 perfect miracle babies who'd turned their world into beautiful chaos. Sarah had been such a good mother. The best. She'd known which boy needed extra cuddles and which needed space, could tell their cries apart in the middle of the night, had created elaborate birthday parties and Christmas mornings that felt like stepping into Wonderland. And then the diagnosis. Stage 4 breast cancer, already in her lymph nodes, already stealing her from them before they'd even processed the words the doctor was saying. Jennifer was talking about something, her job maybe, or her kids. Marcus wasn't sure because the blood was rushing in his ears and his vision was tunneling and he suddenly couldn't breathe. The wine glass in his hand trembled so badly that red wine sloshed over the rim onto the white tablecloth, spreading like the blood that had been in Sarah's hospital tubes, like the blood he'd watched the nurses take vial after vial after vial, trying to find answers that didn't exist. "I'm sorry," Marcus choked out, standing so abruptly his chair scraped loudly against the floor. Other diners looked over, curious or annoyed, but he didn't care. "I'm so sorry." Jennifer's face crumpled with understanding and disappointment in equal measure. "It's okay," she whispered, reaching for his hand, but he pulled away because if anyone touched him with kindness right now, he would absolutely shatter into a million pieces right here between the pasta specials and the breadsticks. He stumbled towards the door, his vision blurring with tears he'd been holding back for hours, for days, for 23 goddamn months. His phone buzzed in his pocket, probably Maya checking in, probably worried, but he ignored it. Christmas decorations mocked him from every storefront, Santa Claus and snowmen, and cheerful signs proclaiming joy to the world when Marcus's world had ended in that hospital room and never quite started again. He found himself at Riverside Park without consciously deciding to go there, his feet carrying him to the bench where Sarah and he used to bring the boys to feed the ducks. It was darker now, colder, the river black and churning under the bridge lights. Marcus sat down heavily, put his face in his hands, and finally let himself break. The sobs came from somewhere deep and primal, tearing out of him with a violence that hurt his throat and chest. He cried for Sarah, for the life they were supposed to have, for growing old together and watching their boys graduate and get married and have children of their own. He cried for the way cancer had ravaged her beautiful body, had stolen her thick brown hair and her bright laugh and the light in her hazel eyes. He cried for having to explain to 3 6-year-old boys why Mommy wasn't coming home from the hospital, for the way Ethan screamed that Marcus was lying, for the way Lucas went completely silent for 3 weeks, for the way little Noah packed a suitcase and insisted they go get her because she needed them. He cried for every morning he woke up alone, for every parents' night at school where other couples stood together while he stood singular and broken, for every time one of the boys asked why other kids had mommies and they didn't, as if Marcus could explain the cosmic unfairness of it all when he couldn't understand it himself. "I miss you," he whispered into the freezing night, his words creating small clouds of vapor that disappeared like ghosts. "God, Sarah, I miss you so much. I can't breathe sometimes. The boys miss you. They drew you pictures for Christmas. They're hanging on the refrigerator because I didn't know where else to put them. To Mommy in heaven, like you're on vacation instead of dead." The word felt obscene even now, after all this time. Dead. Sarah was dead. His beautiful, vibrant, 36-year-old wife was dead and rotting in the ground, while he was supposed to be on a date, supposed to be moving on, supposed to be healing. But how do you heal from losing half your soul? How do you move forward when forward means leaving her further behind? A family walked past, mother, father, 3 kids bundled in matching red scarves, and the father was carrying the smallest one on his shoulders while she shrieked with laughter. Marcus watched them disappear down the path and felt the familiar spike of jealousy and rage that sometimes overtook his grief. Why them? Why did they get to be whole when his family was shattered? Why did Sarah have to be the one the universe took? His phone buzzed again, insistent, and this time Marcus pulled it out with shaking hands. "Maya, how's it going? The boys want to know when you'll be home. I told them after dinner, but Ethan's getting worried." Marcus stared at the message, at his sister's gentle concern, at the reminder that 3 little boys were waiting for him, needed him to pull himself together and be their father even when he didn't know how anymore. He typed back with numb fingers. "Coming home now. It didn't work out." 3 dots appeared immediately as Maya typed, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, "I'm sorry, Em. Come home. We made hot chocolate."
Marcus stood, his legs unsteady, and began the walk back to his car. The streets were thinning out now as people settled into their Christmas Eve celebrations. Churches full of candlelight and caroling, homes warm with cooking smells and wrapped presents under trees, children's excited whispers about what Santa might bring. Marcus remembered last Christmas, the first one without Sarah, how he'd tried so hard to make it special for the boys, even though he was dying inside. He'd bought too many presents, trying to fill the Sarah-shaped hole in their morning, had cooked breakfast that nobody ate because they were all crying too hard, had put on Frosty the Snowman and pretended not to hear when Noah asked why Mommy loved that movie if she wasn't there to watch it with them. This year, he'd tried to do better, tried to prepare himself emotionally, but apparently trying to go on a date on Christmas Eve had been a spectacularly bad idea. What had he been thinking? That he could just slot another person into the space Sarah left? That 23 months was enough time to stop feeling like his heart had been carved out of his chest with a rusty spoon? He reached his car, the family minivan Sarah had insisted they needed for the triplets, that still had her favorite radio stations programmed and her sunglasses in the cup holder, and sat in the driver's seat without starting the engine. The silence pressed in on him, heavy and suffocating, and Marcus let his head fall back against the headrest, squeezing his eyes shut against fresh tears. "I don't know how to do this without you," he said aloud to the empty car, to Sarah's ghost that he sometimes swore he could feel in the passenger seat. "I'm failing them, aren't I? The boys. They need a mother, and all they have is me, and I'm so broken, Sarah. I'm trying to hold it together, but I'm so goddamn broken." No answer came, of course, just the tick of the cooling engine and the distant sound of church bells ringing in Christmas. Marcus sat there for long minutes, maybe hours. Time had lost meaning, until his phone rang and Maya's name flashed on the screen. He answered it, tried to sound normal. "Hey, where are you?" Maya's voice was tight with worry. "The boys are really anxious. Ethan thinks something happened to you." Fresh guilt stabbed through Marcus's chest. Of course Ethan was anxious. His mother had gone to the hospital one day and never come back. The 8-year-old had developed separation anxiety so severe he sometimes threw up when Marcus dropped him at school. "I'm on my way," Marcus said, starting the engine. "Tell them I'm fine. Tell them I'll be home in 15 minutes and we'll watch a movie." "Marcus," Maya hesitated, "are you okay? Really?" "No," Marcus said, honestly, because lying to Maya had never worked. "But I will be. I have to be." He drove home through streets growing quiet under softly falling snow, past houses glowing with Christmas lights, and the occasional glimpse through windows of families gathered around tables. His own house was the modest 2-story on Maple Street that he and Sarah had bought when she was pregnant, that they'd painted together and filled with nursery furniture and dreams of raising their children. Now it just felt too big and too empty, even with 4 people living in it, because the one person who'd made it a home was gone. Maya's car was in the driveway, and Marcus could see shapes moving past the living room window, his sister and the boys, waiting. He sat in the car for one more moment, trying to gather himself, trying to push down the grief that wanted to swallow him whole, so he could be dad for a few more hours before the boys went to bed and he could fall apart in privacy. He got out, trudged up the walkway, and barely got the door open before 3 small bodies slammed into him with the force of relief. "Daddy!" Noah shrieked, wrapping his arms around Marcus's legs. "You're back!" Ethan clung to his waist, face pressed into Marcus's coat, trembling slightly in that way that meant he'd been crying. Lucas stood back a step, quieter than his brothers, but watching Marcus with those 2 old eyes that broke his father's heart. At 8 years old, Lucas had somehow become the stoic one, the boy who comforted his brothers but never asked for comfort himself, who Marcus sometimes caught staring at Sarah's picture with an expression of such profound loss. It was unbearable. "Hey guys," Marcus said, his voice rough as he tried to hug all 3 at once. "I'm sorry I'm late. I'm here now." "Did you have a good dinner?" Noah asked with the innocent curiosity of a child who didn't fully understand what his father had been attempting. "Did you bring us anything?" "Noah, that's rude," Lucas said quietly, pulling his little brother back by the shoulder. Over their heads, Marcus met Maya's eyes and saw his own pain reflected there. His sister knew, had known even when she set up the date, that it was probably too soon, but she was desperate to see him happy again, desperate to give her nephews some kind of normal. "It's okay," Marcus said, ruffling Noah's dark hair, Sarah's hair. All three boys had her coloring. "Dinner was short, but I'm glad to be home with you guys. That's where I want to be on Christmas Eve." Ethan finally pulled back, looking up at Marcus with those serious hazel eyes, Sarah's eyes. "You promise you won't go away again?" "Ethan," Maya said gently, but Marcus shook his head. "I promise, buddy. I'm not going anywhere. Cross my heart." He made the gesture, and Ethan seemed to relax fractionally, though Marcus knew it would take more than promises. It always did with Ethan, who'd watched his mother promise she'd fight the cancer and win, who'd watched that promise get broken in the cruelest way possible.
Maya had made the living room cozy. Fire in the fireplace, Christmas tree lights twinkling, mugs of hot chocolate waiting on the coffee table with extra marshmallows because that's how the boys liked it. She'd also made Marcus's favorite, coffee with a shot of whiskey hidden in it, which he appreciated more than he could say. "Thank you," he mouthed to her, and she squeezed his shoulder as the boys pulled him toward the couch. They arranged themselves like they always did now, Ethan on Marcus's right, Noah on his left, Lucas next to Ethan, creating a tight unit of Bennett men who'd learned to hold on to each other because the person who'd held them all together was gone. Maya settled into the armchair with her own cocoa, and for a moment it was almost peaceful, almost normal, until Noah said, "Daddy, can we visit Mommy tomorrow, on Christmas?" The room went very still. Marcus felt his throat close up, felt Ethan tense beside him, saw Lucas's knuckles go white around his mug. Maya looked stricken, clearly not having expected this. "Buddy," Marcus started, not sure how to finish. They'd been to the cemetery exactly 3 times since the funeral, once on Sarah's birthday, once on what would have been their anniversary, and once on the first day of school when the boys had wanted to tell Mommy about their new teachers. Each visit had been devastating, had sent Lucas into nightmares and Ethan into hysterics, and left Noah confused about why they couldn't just dig up the box and get Mommy out. "I just want to tell her about what I asked Santa for," Noah said in a small voice. "I want her to know so she can help Santa know what I want most." "What's that, sweetheart?" Maya asked gently when Marcus couldn't speak past the lump in his throat. Noah looked down at his hot chocolate, suddenly shy. "I can't tell. It's a secret wish, but Mommy always knew my secret wishes." "Oh, God. Oh, God." Marcus pulled Noah closer, pressed a kiss to his son's head, and tried to breathe through the pain. Sarah had known all their secret wishes, had known that Ethan wanted to be an astronaut, that Lucas loved poetry but was too embarrassed to tell anyone, that Noah dreamed of having a dog even though they'd never discussed getting one. "I know everything you wish for," Marcus said, hoping it was true, hoping that wherever Sarah was, if she was anywhere, she could still somehow see their boys, still somehow watch over them. "She's always with you, in your heart. You don't have to go to the cemetery to talk to her. You can talk to her anytime." "But I want to see her," Noah insisted, and then he was crying, tears streaming down his face in a way that set off Ethan, who started sobbing into Marcus's side. Lucas stayed quiet, but Marcus saw his son's jaw clenching, saw him fighting whatever he was feeling with everything he had. "I know," Marcus said helplessly, gathering both crying boys closer, while Maya moved to sit by Lucas, putting an arm around the 8-year-old's rigid shoulders. "I want to see her too. Every single day I want to see her. But we can't, buddy. We can't, and I'm so, so sorry."
They sat there in the glow of the Christmas tree lights, his family breaking apart and trying to hold together simultaneously, and Marcus wondered how many more Christmases would be like this, how many more years until the boys didn't cry for their mother, how many more decades until Marcus stopped reflexively reaching for Sarah in the morning, stopped turning to tell her something funny, only to remember she wasn't there. "I have an idea," Maya said after a while, her voice determinedly cheerful. "Why don't we write letters to Mommy? We can tell her everything we want her to know, and then tomorrow we can do something special with them. We could tie them to balloons and send them to heaven, or we could put them in the special box with all her things. What do you think?" The boys considered this. Ethan wiped his eyes, sniffling. "Can we really? Can we send letters to heaven?" "I think so," Maya said firmly, shooting Marcus a look that said, "Play along." "I think Mommy would love to get letters from her boys on Christmas." "Okay," Ethan agreed shakily. Lucas just nodded, and Noah whispered, "I want mine to go on a red balloon. Red was Mommy's favorite color." It wasn't, actually. Sarah's favorite color had been yellow, sunshine yellow, she called it, but Marcus didn't correct him, because what did it matter anymore? They spent the next hour writing letters, the boys sprawled on the floor with construction paper and crayons, while Maya helped Noah sound out words he couldn't spell. Marcus sat on the couch, pretending to write his own letter, but really just watching his sons, memorizing the way Lucas bit his lip when he concentrated, the way Ethan drew pictures in the margins of his letter, the way Noah asked Maya if Mommy could read cursive because he was trying to learn it. These boys, these 3 perfect, heartbroken little boys who shouldn't have to write letters to their dead mother on Christmas Eve, who should be upstairs asleep, dreaming of presents and Santa, not grieving a loss they were far too young to understand. When they finished, the boys folded their letters carefully, and Maya produced 4 red balloons from somewhere, bless her, she'd somehow anticipated this, and they tied the letters on with string. "Can we do it now?" Noah asked, bouncing with sudden excitement. "Can we send them now?" Marcus checked his watch. Nearly 11 o'clock, but what did it matter? Normal bedtimes had gone out the window along with everything else. "Okay," he agreed. "Let's do it now. Everyone get your coats." They bundled up in winter gear, the boys chattering now with the strange resilience children have, their grief temporarily transmuted into the adventure of sending balloons into the night sky. Marcus grabbed his own coat, caught Maya's arm as they headed for the door. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for being here, for always being here." "Where else would I be?" Maya replied, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "You're my brother. They're my nephews. We're family, Marcus. We get through this together." Outside, fresh snow was falling in fat, lazy flakes that caught the light from the street lamps and the neighbors' Christmas displays. The Bennett boys stood in their front yard, each holding a red balloon, looking up at the dark sky where stars peeked through breaks in the clouds. "On 3, Marcus said, his voice only shaking a little. 1, 2, 3. They released the balloons simultaneously, and Marcus's heart lurched as he watched them rise, carrying their messages of love and longing and desperate sadness up into the December night. The boys cheered and jumped, waving as the balloons climbed higher, grew smaller, until they were just red dots against the darkness, before disappearing entirely. "Do you think she got them?" Ethan whispered, slipping his hand into Marcus's. "Yeah, buddy," Marcus said, squeezing back. "I think she got them." They stood there in the falling snow, the 5 of them, until Noah started shivering and Maya herded everyone back inside. The boys were running on pure exhaustion now, their emotions wrung out, and Maya helped Marcus get them into pajamas and tucked into their beds, all 3 in Lucas's room because they still couldn't sleep separately, still needed to know their brothers were close. Marcus did the rounds, kissing foreheads and pulling up blankets and saying goodnight to each boy individually. "Daddy?" Lucas said just as Marcus reached the door. "Yeah, bud? Are you okay? You seem really sad." God, this kid. This observant, sensitive, too damn perceptive kid who worried about everyone else before himself. Marcus came back, sat on the edge of Lucas's bed, and chose honesty. I am sad, he admitted. I miss Mommy a lot, especially at Christmas. But I'm also happy because I have you guys, and you're the best thing Mommy and I ever made together. You know that, right? Lucas nodded solemnly. I try to remember her every day so I don't forget. Marcus's heart cracked clean open. Oh, Lucas, you won't forget her. I promise you won't. And I'll help you remember, all of you. We'll tell stories about Mommy and look at pictures and watch the videos I have of her. She's not really gone as long as we remember her. Okay, Lucas whispered, but he looked unconvinced, looked like a child carrying weights no child should carry. Marcus stayed until all three boys drifted off, their breathing evening out into sleep, and then he crept downstairs to find Maya boxing up the untouched hot chocolate and tidying the living room. Leave it, Marcus said tiredly. I'll do it tomorrow. It's already tomorrow, Maya pointed out, glancing at the clock showing midnight. Merry Christmas, Marcus. Merry Christmas, he echoed hollowly, collapsing onto the couch. Maya sat beside him, and they stared at the tree lights in silence for a while. Finally, she said, I'm sorry about the date. I shouldn't have pushed you. I just thought... You thought it might help, Marcus finished. I know. It's okay. Is it, though? Because you look like you got hit by a truck. Marcus laughed without humor. I feel like I got hit by a truck. Maya, I stood up in the middle of that restaurant and ran away like a crazy person. That poor woman, I couldn't even look at her without seeing Sarah, without feeling like I was cheating, even though Sarah's dead, and I know logically that she'd want me to be happy. But knowing and feeling are different things. They are, Maya agreed softly. She was quiet for a moment, then said, Do you remember Christmas 3 years ago, when Sarah was first diagnosed but still felt okay enough to do the whole big production? Marcus remembered. God, did he remember. Sarah had gone absolutely overboard that year, some desperate attempt to create perfect memories before the cancer stole her away. She decorated every inch of the house, had baked cookies with the boys until the kitchen was covered in flour and frosting, had organized a whole Christmas Eve extravaganza with matching pajamas and hot chocolate and a reading of 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. She wore that ridiculous reindeer sweater, Marcus said, smiling through tears of the memory, with the actual jingle bells on it, and she made us all wear Santa hats for the photos. She was so happy that night. Or maybe she was just good at pretending. I remember watching her with the boys, watching her memorize everything like she knew it might be her last Christmas. And it was, wasn't it? Last Christmas, Sarah was skeletal, bald from chemo, barely able to stay awake for more than an hour at a time. They'd done a small celebration in her hospital room, the boys opening presents surrounded by IV poles and beeping monitors and the smell of antiseptic. Sarah had smiled and said it was perfect, that anywhere with her boys was perfect, and 3 days later she'd slipped into the coma she never woke up from. She told me something, Maya said quietly, that last Christmas in the hospital. The boys had gone with you to get cafeteria food, and she asked me to come close. She was so weak, Marcus, could barely talk, but she grabbed my hand and she said, Take care of them. Take care of Marcus and the boys. Don't let them stop living because I'm gone. I promised I would. That's why I keep pushing you, keep trying to get you to go out and meet people and do normal things, because I promised Sarah I wouldn't let you disappear into grief. Marcus's vision blurred with fresh tears. Of course Sarah had thought of them, had worried about them even when she was dying. That's who she'd been, a mother and wife first, herself second, always. I don't know how to live without her, Marcus admitted in a broken whisper. I wake up every morning and for just a second I forget she's gone, and then I remember and it's like losing her all over again. The boys ask me questions I can't answer and need things I can't give. And I'm failing, Maya. I'm failing at being enough for them. "You're not failing," Maya said fiercely, turning to grip Marcus's shoulders and force him to look at her. "Marcus, listen to me. You're not failing. You're surviving. You're getting 3 kids to school and fed and clothed and loved every single day while dealing with your own grief. Do you know how strong that makes you? Do you know how many people couldn't do what you're doing? It doesn't feel strong. It feels like drowning." "I know," Maya said gentler now. "I know it does. But you're doing it. And those boys upstairs, they're okay because of you. They're sad and they're grieving, but they're okay. And that's because you're showing up for them every single day, even when you don't want to." They sat together in the quiet house, in the glow of Christmas lights that Sarah had bought their first year in this house, and Marcus let himself be comforted by his sister's presence, even though the ache in his chest never diminished. Eventually, Maya left, making Marcus promise to call if he needed anything, and then he was alone in the silence, just him and the ghost of Christmases past. He should sleep, should go upstairs and try to get a few hours before the boys woke up excited for presents. But instead, Marcus found himself pulling out his laptop and opening the folder labeled Sarah. Videos, photos, nearly 15 years of their life together, documented and saved. He clicked on a random video and Sarah's face filled the screen, laughing, alive, so heartbreakingly beautiful it stole his breath. It was from the Triplets' 5th birthday party, and she was covered in cake frosting, her hair in a messy ponytail, her smile so bright it could power cities. "Say hi to the camera, boys," she was saying, and 3 little boys crowded into frame shouting, "Hi, Daddy," because Marcus had been the one filming. "We made such good humans," Video Sarah said, pulling the boys into a hug. "Look at them, Marcus. We made these perfect little humans." "We did," Video Marcus replied from behind the camera, his voice full of love and pride. "You did most of the work, though." "We're a team," Sarah said, looking directly into the camera, directly at him. "We're always a team, baby. You and me against the world." Marcus paused the video on her face, on that smile, and pressed his palm to the screen like he could somehow touch her through time and pixels. "I'm sorry," he whispered to her frozen image. "I'm sorry I can't move on. I'm sorry I'm not strong enough. I'm sorry I ran away from that date because I can't imagine anyone but you. I'm so sorry, Sarah." The house creaked and settled around him. No answer came because dead people don't answer. Marcus closed the laptop, turned off the tree lights, and climbed the stairs to check on the boys one more time before attempting sleep. They were tangled together in Lucas's bed like puppies, Ethan's arm thrown over Noah, Lucas curled protective around both his brothers. Marcus's heart swelled with love so fierce it hurt. These boys, these 3 pieces of Sarah that she'd left behind. He would do better by them. He had to. Tomorrow, today technically, was Christmas. They'd open presents and watch movies and eat too much candy from their stockings. They'd call Maya and his parents and try to smile and be grateful for what they had instead of dwelling on what they'd lost. And maybe, somehow, that would be enough. Maybe learning to live again wasn't about moving on or forgetting or replacing Sarah. Maybe it was about carrying her with them while still allowing themselves moments of joy, still allowing themselves to be present for the life that continued to unfold, whether they were ready or not. Marcus crawled into his own bed, their bed, always their bed, even though she'd never sleep in it again, and pulled Sarah's pillow close, breathing in the faint scent of her shampoo that was probably just his imagination by now, but that he clung to anyway. "Merry Christmas, Sarah," he whispered into the darkness. "The boys sent you letters. I hope you got them. I hope wherever you are, you know how much we love you, how much we'll always love you." Sleep took him eventually, and he dreamed of Sarah in her ridiculous reindeer sweater, laughing and whole and alive, telling him it was okay, that he was doing okay, that she loved him and always would. When he woke to the sounds of the boys thundering down the stairs, shouting about presents, Marcus let himself smile. Not because the grief was gone, it would never be fully gone, but because those 3 loud, excited, alive little boys needed him to smile, needed him to be present, needed him to be dad, even when being dad felt impossible. So he got up, put on the brave face he'd become so practiced at wearing, and went downstairs to give his sons the Christmas morning their mother would have wanted them to have. And if he had to excuse himself halfway through present opening to cry in the bathroom for 5 minutes, well, that was between him and Sarah's memory. A private moment of grief in a day that would otherwise be filled with trying, with surviving, with loving the pieces of her that remained in 3 perfect little boys who deserved every ounce of happiness he could possibly give them. He stood in front of the mirror, wiping his eyes, and whispered one more promise to the woman he'd lost. "I'll take care of them, Sarah. I'll take care of our boys. I promise."